Well, will you look at that? It is time for another episode of Mole in Hell, a season 4 special. As I know, I've been stopping doing this podcast a while ago because there wasn't really anything to talk about. Right, that's the reality. Blizzard has made sometimes some questionable decisions regarding Diablo 4, and it was not really going too well. But Season 4 has changed a lot, and if you are still on the fence, then and you already own the game, you should definitely jump back. Disclaimer before we jump in here: everything I would say is in contrast of I really enjoy Season 4. I already have a level 100 character, I have my second level 50 character going, and I've played maybe 15 to 20 hours at best, and it's such a fun thing to do. But the reality is, there are also some concerns and also some issues. So, man, when Diablo 4 first came out, I definitely felt about the game like, this feels a bit like Diablo 3 did. Itemization was pretty close to what we had in Diablo 3. And no, when I say Diablo 3, I have to make this clear because some people misunderstand me here, is I talk about Diablo 3. I'm not talking about Rebirth of Souls. That is a very different game from what Diablo 3 was at the beginning. And again, when Diablo 3 came out, the the auction house was a huge problem because Blizzard basically admitted that they interfered with the item drops and tried to give us as many shitty items as possible so that in the end we are going to the auction house and utilize it. You can still read it in the patch notes. I think it was patch 1.8, 1.9, before Rebirth of Souls came out. And it's just 13 pages of itemization changes and how they had to completely rework it. And you would have thought kind of they learned from this and they would bring like all the things they learned from Diablo 3 into Diablo 4. But I really, and this is my personal headcanon, but I really had the feeling that the people who worked on Diablo 3 then worked on Diablo 4 just had this personal vendetta. They wanted to show that it wasn't the gameplay which was an issue in Diablo 3. No, it was the players. And so they brought like a lot of the weird quirks and issues from the third one at release into the fourth one. And here we are. And no, I'm sorry, Blizzard, it it ain't that. The problem was Diablo 3 had some serious issues, and it was shit. Before Rebirth of Souls, it was shit. Let's face it. And you had to make a lot of compromising changes. Now, 4 thankfully didn't start it out as 3. Like, it wasn't as bad as 3. Like, 3 had so many underlying issues that even Rebirth of Souls couldn't fix them all, and even patches later, they couldn't really fix them all because they were so integrated into the game that it would have taken months, if not years, to fix that, and a lot of work, and Blizzard didn't want to invest that because also a lot of people left the game. So the good news is that Diablo 4 doesn't really have that many issues, but they have some. Itemization was one of them. We need more endgame. And, well, character development, especially the talent trees, are just sad. It's just sad when you open them up. And they are still sad. Hasn't really changed. And I would love to see Blizzard tackling that next. Now, what is interesting, when you're looking at Season 4, there is no real season here. There is no special thing going on for the season. Yeah, they're the Iron Wolves, which takes you, what, in total 30 minutes to finish their quest line, right? And that's that. But there's nothing else you couldn't get on the Eternal Realm. So if you don't really want to get the new season pass, I highly recommend just to play your Eternal character. If you want to do that, you're not missing out on anything, which is okay. Like, I saw some people in my comments of a video I made where they were like, oh, you want to screw over Eternal Realm, and you wanted to keep all those things to the season. No, that's not what I meant. My point was, I think Blizzard maneuvered themselves into a corner by promising new seasonal events every 3 months. That's what they promised. And personally, hey, if they would just stop doing the 3 months cadence, if they would not give us new seasonal events every season, but actually work on some of the fundamental gameplay elements, I'm totally okay with that. I totally am. Why would I not be for that, right? Like, I want that this game gets better. And I said it before that seasonal events have a major issue, and that's that they mostly just stay for the season and then disappear. But that's a bad thing because this game needs content. This game needs changes. And it's kind of for me insane when you now look back at what, 9 months? We are at 11 months, right? The 6th of June is when Diablo 4 came out. So yeah, we are pretty close to the 1 year anniversary. And we had 3 seasons with some okayish amount of content in 12 months. And Blizzard decided to remove all of that. Because again, the base game needs a lot more support. So again, I'm super happy what they are doing with Season 4 here, right? Like, Season 4 was needed and was the right decision. So what did they do in Season 4? Let's talk about that. So quick rundown. One of the bigger changes is the leveling. Leveling is now whatever, right? As I said, I reached level 100 with one of my characters with a Sorg, and it took me about 10 hours, I would say, 12 hours maybe. It's a joke in comparison. And I have now Bard, which I have been playing for 4 hours, and I'm already level 50, getting closer to that. And like, leveling is such a joke now, and I'm cool with that because I hate leveling. I hate leveling. Why do I hate leveling? I hate leveling in games when it is used to draw things out. When it is used to slow things down to a halt, and you have to basically just do it because the developer wants you to take longer, to stick with the game longer, because they know there is not enough endgame content to keep you playing. So they are trying to draw it out as much as possible so that they can push more content. And I hate that. I'm like, why did you not just cut short the leveling instead of investing so much time into that and actually use the time instead for making the endgame content, right? And again, Diablo's not the only game who's doing that. MMOs have been doing this for decades, right? When basically they calculated the leveling phase so that you were running out of the free month you were getting when you were buying the game, and so you have to at least invest another month into the game. They very much calculated with that all the time, and it was so obvious that it annoyed the heck out of me. And so I never was a fan of leveling, and I'm glad that leveling is now not important anymore. And they have basically split up Diablo 4 into leveling from 1 to 100. And you have all the features available to you besides Nightmare Dungeons, which come with Tier 3, and the bosses, right? And then at level 100, they have now the Gauntlet, right? That's a thing. And they have now the Pit, aka the Major Rifts. If you play Diablo 3, they basically just took the Major Rifts. They now call it the Pit. It's the same thing. Like, you were going into a city, there's a big obelisk there, like in 3, right? You're opening up a portal, and then you're doing the Major Rift. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun, and it adds, again, more to the game. But that is how they have split up the gameplay. Now, Hell Tides are available beginning from level 1. The world bosses spawn more often. Legion events are more often there. Like, as I said, Hell Tides are available 24/7. And then you unlock the Nightmare Dungeons and the world bosses, but you are not really touching them till you not reach Tier 4, because World Tier 3 is now, even more than it was before, an in-between section. Like, I think my Sorg left World Tier 4 World Tier 3 with, I think it was 58. I think I reached 58. Then I was like, okay, let's get some lulls here. Let's do the Guardian. And I started to fight the Guardian, and 3 seconds later I just see an item shower. And I'm like, wait, what happened? Did I just kill him? What happened? What's going on here? Right? And it's like, what? And then you did go tier 4 and you're leveling up even faster there. So that's not really a problem anymore. And no, I didn't use a cookie cutter build. I was just using the flamethrower, which is quite fun. But it's not really effective because you have to stand still, and standing still is still the death in this game. But yeah, everything feels a little bit more trivial, which I'm okay with. I this is the problem Blizzard always had. There is this fight internally at Blizzard, I think, where they are debating how much esports they basically need in their games. And in my opinion, it's always too much. Blizzard had quite a bit of games in the past, and with Diablo 4, where they just try to keep it super balanced and competitive. I was like, why? Let me have a brainless action RPG where I can just murder things and I don't have to push the boundaries like PoE does, right? Like just let me have fun with it. Like Overwatch is a wonderful example. I always believe that the whole idea of balancing the game for esports was the death of the game. At least it was for me. It's like I'm not the biggest shooter fan, right? And Overwatch was just fun as a casual. And I think a lot of people felt that way. And the Blizzard was like, lol, esports. We have to balance it that way. I lost the interest. And again, this is not a new phenomenon. Blizzard had that in the past when they tried to make World of Warcraft an esports thing with the arenas and whatnot. They always tried that, and it just sometimes doesn't work. And I had the feeling with Diablo 4 they had the same problem again, that balancing, they try to make it as balanced as possible. And I'm like, Blizzard, I'm not playing Elden Ring here. And even in Elden Ring, they're absolutely broken builds. But like I'm playing an action RPG. Let me slay, okay? Just let me smash, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, one of the biggest changes is itemization. So they've basically removed all the stats which you don't need for your class, so you don't find a staff anymore with strength on it when it is for a Sorc. That's not happen, and vice versa, of course, for the other classes. You don't will find intelligence on any of your barb items. And like all the stats are a little bit more designed in the direction of what your character really needs. They also now made it so that you don't have to level. Well, you kind of still do that with the masterworking, but what they added is tempering. And tempering allows you to just take a weapon or an item piece and decide what additional stat you want to put on there, right? Like extra thorns damage, more fire damage, fire over time damage, yada, yada, yada. Like, it is always something your character can probably use. Not always, not always. Like, there are definitely some roles which are not really good for your character, and I would love Blizzard to see fixing that at some point, because it's pretty disheartening when you re-roll all your tries and you were just unlucky. Like, I literally had an item which was low level, wasn't too important for the barbarian, but it had 4 rerolls, and all the 4 rerolls were barrier regeneration. I was like, what? I don't need that. Why would you 4 times? Oh my god, it was so disheartening, right? But it is a pretty cool system which adds a lot. But the biggest system, I think, is the codex change. So you probably remember how this worked in Diablo 4, where you took an item, and if you wanted to have that specific legendary affix on the item, you would just destroy the item, get a shard out of it, and then use this shard on another yellow or legendary item to get actually that specific legendary affix on that new item. It was such a screwed up system because not only was your inventory full all the time, your chests, it was hard to follow which was really good and which wasn't, and it was such a mess. So they completely removed that system. It's gone, right? What you're now doing is when you destroy a weapon at the blacksmith, the power of that legendary goes into your Codex of Power, right, and resides there for all eternity. So you can always put them on an item. Okay, so what happens if I find the same item with the same legendary affix again? Glad that you ask. It will basically improve the already existing legendary aspect in your Codex of Power. Right, if you have a legendary aspect with can roll between 10 and 20% damage, you start with 10. If you find more of the specific legendary aspect, destroy it again, it will go up by 12%, 15%, till it reaches 20, and then you will always have the best affix you can put on your legendaries, so you don't have to think about that. They also added best in slot rolls on items. So instead of, just an example here, 80 intelligence, which is the highest you can roll, you can now get bonus stats, which will increase the intelligence from 80 to 160. Right? And you have to find that. You have to find that. And that's nice. You don't need it. Right? We are at the point now where the game became a little bit too trivial that even if you want to get like the best in slot items, you don't need that. You need like half best in slot items, like half of it will do the trick, which I'm okay with. Right? I don't want to farm 20 hours to maybe get that 20 more int on an already really good item. I don't know. Doesn't necessarily do it for me, especially if I can do most of the content anyways. But yeah, that was definitely one of the biggest changes they did. They also reworked Hell Tides quite a lot, so Hell Tides are now available at World Tier 1. They are up all the time. Well, not all the time. They are up 55 minutes, and then they take a 5-minute break so that you can go through your items, sell your items, and all that. And then the next Hell Tide is coming up. And there's also now a boss fight you can summon in that Hell Tide, which gives a lot of loot, a lot of XP. The density of Hell Tides has been increased like double the amount, I would say. The more enemies you are killing, you're filling up a bar, which makes the minions of Hell angry. So they are throwing more and more minions at you till you fill the bar. Then the bar is slowly degenerating by throwing even more minions at you. And then at the end it will summon like a relatively beefy boss fight if you already not have like the best equipment or you are completely over leveled, right? But that thing can kill you. That thing can kill you, especially early on. Like I died quite often to it. I saw other people dying quite often to it because you are everything is super trivial, and then you have just this mob spawning in front of you, and the trivial becomes challenging, and you have to flip a switch. You have to immediately be on your toes and be like, "Oh shit!" Well, that's a different type, right? Like it would kick my ass if I'm not careful. So yeah, I enjoy that very much, and it's just they basically got rid of the whole let's care for yellow items. You do not care for yellow items anymore, but you have now so many legendaries that you now have a full inventory every 5 minutes of just full legendaries. And so you are still going back to the hometown. But I would say it's easier now to spot the item you need because even if you have an item you might have missed. That sucks, of course. But the good thing is, at least you're keeping the legendary affix, right? So you're not losing out on that anymore, which was always the biggest thing. Because if you didn't have that specific legendary affix, the specific power, some of the builds wouldn't work. I cannot overstate this enough. I had seasons where I was running a build and I was looking for this specific legendary or this specific unique, and it never dropped. It was so infuriating. And now, thankfully, that's not really a problem anymore. And of course, you can do the boss fights. Oh my gosh, the boss fights, like the living steel, the boss in the cathedral. I think when I reached level 70, yeah, I reached level 70, and I was opening up my inventory, and I was like, okay, let's see, how often can I do the boss here? And I just realized I had like 80 living steel in my inventory, and you need 5 to summon the boss. So I did that for a while. And the same goes for the other bosses. The same is true for the other bosses. I had so many of the resources, I could have probably done this for hours. And the moment you reach Helltide 4, and not Helltide 4, sorry, World Tier 4, you're just getting so many of the resources, which is good. I love the new world bosses they implemented, but I always felt like we didn't see them too often. Like for 4 hours of gameplay, you could maybe do the cathedral boss twice, if you were lucky. Right, and the same goes for Uber Duriel and all that, where you need the resources. And yeah, so it's not much easier, which is great. But yeah, everything like TLDR, season 4 is amazing. Definitely keeps me playing. Highly recommended. If you had some issues with the itemization and with some of the ground gameplay elements, this might actually now be the season to return. But one last thing I want to say, and then we're wrapping it up here. Please be careful at the blacksmith when you are now clicking the destroy all items. The blacksmith will actually destroy all items. And yes, that counts for legendaries, that counts for uniques. Please do not make that mistake to destroy something you don't. Didn't happen to me, thankfully, but I saw it with other content creators, and my heart was bleeding. My heart was bleeding. Like, ooh. So be be careful. You can also now lock items, so they are not being destroyed, right? But yeah, be careful about that. With that said, we might actually be back to a 1-year anniversary of Diablo 4, talking a little bit about what happened in the year and what's coming up with the expansion, because E3, not E3, is also happening that week, and we might actually see some real gameplay about the Diablo 4 expansion and the new class. With that said, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like. And also, if you want to see more Diablo content, if you want to see just more roleplay content, which I'm focusing here on the channel, and some survival games, make sure to leave a sub. With that said, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.